breaking down all the plays and getting you in the action. We've got you covered all season long. Welcome to the BCSN Nation podcast, powered by Marco's Pizza.
Oh, yeah. Hello and welcome into the BCSN Nation podcast, everyone. We are powered by Marco's Pizza each and every week. Wednesdays at 3 o'clock, a new episode drops. I am Justin Feldkamp alongside star BCSN basketball analyst Dion Thompson. Dion, we are on the postseason push. We are into the postseason on the girls' side. We got 1 week of the regular season left on the boys' side.
Well, Justin, I can see you're a better dressed guy than me, man. Look, I got the T-shirt on.
Got the T-shirt on. What jiu-jitsu?
Oh, yeah, you know I got to represent that. But
so,
look at this guy, man.
I might be dressed well. We had a meeting prior to the podcast that I had to look upwardly professional.
He always looks like this.
Thank you. Appreciate that. But don't mess with Dion. He does know jiu-jitsu at a very high level, to all of our loyal BCSN Nation podcast followers. Okay, all right, so postseason time is here. We're going to break down each and every week. We talk about all of the leagues and conferences in our area on both the boys and girls side to spread the love and the wealth across all of our social media platforms and here on the podcast. So check us out at BCSN Sports on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. As I mentioned, each and every Wednesday at 3 o'clock, we have a new episode coming your way. Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, Google Podcast, on the website at bcsnnation.com as well, and on YouTube. Okay, so let's go on the boys basketball side. Last week, the brackets came out, so we'll incorporate that into our conversation. But on the NLL side, on Tuesday, we had Anthony Wayne, Bowling Green, Perrysburg, and Northview pick up victories. So as of right now, we got Perrysburg and Anthony Wayne, both 11-2, entering the final game of the regular season, and that is going to be this coming Friday night. We got Bowling Green taking on Anthony Wayne, and then we have Southview taking on Perrysburg. So do you see any upsets on that side in the NLL?
I'm going to say this. I think Southview and BG, they're playing well.
Yep.
I think I don't think there's going to be any upsets, though. I really expect Perrysburg and Anthony Wayne to carry it all the way through. But I do think BG can be that could be a sneaky game if Anthony Wayne, if they're not prepared and go in focused.
Yep.
But they're playing at a pretty high level right now. They're playing really hard. So I'm going to give theirs. I think both teams hold serve.
All right, I would tend to agree with you. We're going to talk about it on the track side. Central Catholic and Whitmer, both heavy favorites as they enter their final game as well. So we could have the NLL and the track both end with two teams tied for first place.
Once again, Lima Senior, they just were a fly in the ointment, so to speak. But I think that's going to be the same way. And when you look at Central Catholic, I like how they're playing. And there's a guy I want to talk about right now, and that's Leach. I mean, Kai Leach, sophomore, he's picking up offers, an outstanding basketball player. Obviously, Brenneman's playing at a high level. I think he and Greenlee. But you bring Leach in there who just really stepped up. And Central, despite not having their star player, they just came together. You got to give Coach Floyd a lot of credit for keeping those guys focused out there. Yeah,
you've always preached that you always look into the camera during Game Day Nation and say, Coach Boyce, Perrysburg's head coach, I'm still on your bandwagon. I've been on your bandwagon since November. Why do you say that? Because it has kind of come to fruition. They are tied for first place entering the final game.
Well, just because, his body of work, his players, the system, those guys just know how to win. And there's something to be said about that. You'll hear me also talk about winning cultures in football. So if a team, in my opinion, if they do well in football, because they tend to get some of those crossover athletes, i.e. Anthony Wayne, Central, Whitmer, Perrysburg, they can be included in that. But Coach Boyce has just been doing it so long. He knows how to get his teams focused.
All right, so on the NLL side, we both envision a tie between Perrysburg and Anthony Wayne. Springfield lost in overtime on Tuesday night to Northview. So those top four teams, we've seen a lot of parity. Obviously, no one 11-2 records tied at the top. No one's unblemished. Everyone has played a competitive schedule and have had opportunities for teams in that third, fourth, fifth place slot go up and knock off some of those first and second place teams throughout the regular season. And I guarantee that Coach Boyce and Coach Arthur are going to be saying that competition within the NLL is going to pay dividends come February 24th when Perrysburg takes on Clay. We could get a Perrysburg versus Springfield or St. Francis game in the district's semifinals. On the other side with Anthony Wayne, they're taking on Findlay. That's a juicy matchup right out of the get-go. And we say it every time, Dion, at this time of the year. There's going to be some really, really good basketball teams that are done, won and out.
And that's how we like it, but you're right. That's a heck of a first game, Findlay, because we know how tough they are and what Coach Ruckey does with his team as well. I compare him to Coach Boyce. He's been doing it for a while, and those guys understand how to get their players to play their roles within the system. And I'm not even going to call that game. I don't know. I don't.
All right. Okay, so on the Three Rivers Athletic Conference side, this is the last, for a reminder for our viewers and listeners, the last year of the Three Rivers Athletic Conference. So they'll finish it up in the spring, and then it is going to dissolve, and teams are going to join from the TRAC to the NLL, and then teams are going to go from the TRAC to the City League, and teams are going to go from the TRAC to the Detroit Catholic League. So a lot of moving parts are going to take place in the rest of this academic calendar year, and then come August of 2023, it's going to be a brand new landscape for many, many schools and communities across Northwest Ohio. So we alluded to it a little bit there with Whitmer and Central Catholic. These two teams have played twice already this season, and Whitmer, a Division I team, Central Catholic, a Division II, so they will be in separate divisions, separate brackets once the postseason concludes. But as you take a look at the final games of the regular season for both of those teams, Whitmer hosts Fremont Ross, and Central Catholic is at Clay. So that's top of the conference versus bottom teams in the conference. So we do expect to see Whitmer and Central end up in a tie with 11 wins and 3 losses.
And once again, congratulations. Shouts out to Coach Stacy, too. He's done an outstanding job. Just found out Antoine West was District Player of the Year. I think that's the right call. I looked at some of these District Players of the Year. I think they got it right this year. I think all the guys who got those awards at the end of the season, they were well-deserved.
Yeah, and he, along with several other players that we've already mentioned, you mentioned Isaiah Brenneman from Central Catholic. All of them, or many of them, are on our top 30 first-team all BCSN basketball list on both the boys and girls side, 60 total names. We will narrow that down to 10 and 10 on Friday, February 24th, and then the final 5 deemed first-team all BCSN on Friday, March 10th. So, as always, we consult with our on-air talent staff who are calling the games as a color analyst and or play-by-play. Myself, Dion, Rhett Boyd, coaches as well, definitely playing a part in those district lists. We take it all in. It's just not us grabbing names out of a hat.
Justin, I'm glad you said that because, guys, if you see me in Kroger, okay, quit asking I'm not the only guy that votes. There's a lot of input that goes into these lists, and obviously there are going to be some guys who are left out who were probably deserving, but you have to understand that the time when the list goes out, there's a lot of things that go into this. So I'm glad you brought that point up.
Yeah, I mean it's a top 30, a top 10, and a top 5. It's not the top 37, the top 12, and the top 7. I mean, it's at some point we do have to draw the line. It is no attack on a particular team or particular player or particular family. It's just a list is a list, and everybody is well-deserving.
And some people got votes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We just compile what the votes were. So
correct. All right, let's move to the City League, Dion. The Final Four is this week as we're going on Tuesday and Thursday, semifinals and finals. On Tuesday, we saw Start get a win, and we saw Scott get a win. Start took down Rogers rather easily, and then Scott had a battle with Bowser. But for the third time, we will see Start versus Scott. And will we see for the third time a Start win over Scott?
Well, they say it's difficult to do that, but Start, that combination with Hightower, and
Stone
Edwards, my God, I love how those guys are playing right now. I love the defense that Coach Wortham employs. But Scott, once again, when you have guards, you can win. They got a nice trio of guards over there themselves. This can be a good game because I feel like Scott, they've played better each time they've played them.
They have. And it was a 2-point game, 45-43 the last time around. I believe it was February 7th. So that's not too long. That's not that far in the rearview mirror.
If it was a blowout, I would say, okay, forget that you can't beat the team 3 times. But I think the talent level is starting to kind of get comparative. So it should be a great game.
Yep, that game is going to be live, not only on the BCSN Now app. It will be there, but it will also be live on BCSN on linear TV. So be sure to check that game out. That is a neutral site. City League championship games are designed to be on neutral sites, so this game will be at Waite.
At the best venue to watch games. Scott, Waite. I used to love calling games there, so if you guys can't catch it on our channel, go out and check those guys out. It's going to be a good game. Very good game.
Thursday at 7 o'clock, that game between Start and Scott. All right, in the Toledo Area Athletic Conference, the TAAC, we got TAAC. Emmanuel Christian in control. They have won their last several games after that loss on the road to Cardinal Stritch, which was one of the games of the year. Fantastic environment for a Friday night game. We saw, since our last podcast, Dion, Jerry Easter Jr., a sophomore, less than 40 games into his high school career, surpass 1,000 points.
That's crazy when you think about it. But I guess if you're hitting 51, 40, 30, and he's done it with a lot of consistency too. So well-deserving, picking up a lot of offers. But that team, I think after that loss, they seem to get focused. And that's what happens sometimes, when you do take a loss in the league. I thought Stritch, they did an excellent job, not taking anything away from them. But what Jerry Easter has managed to do in just 2 short years has been amazing.
The Friday night lineup of games for the final regular season matchups in the TAAC. Cardinal Stritch is at Ottawa Hills. Emmanuel Christian is at Maumee Valley Country Day. And we have Toledo Christian at Northwood. So barring a upset of Maumee Valley against Emmanuel Christian and a Cardinal Stritch win, I guess if that happens, we could have a third tying scenario with the NLL, the TRAC, and the TAAC. But if Emmanuel Christian holds serve, they would go 9-1 in conference play and clinch the outright title in the TAAC. Fast forwarding ahead to the postseason, Dion, for Emmanuel Christian and Cardinal Stritch, the 2 top dogs in that conference. Stritch would likely have to face Ashland Crestview if the seeds hold. Emmanuel Christian would go up against Swanton or Delta, 2 teams from the Northwest Ohio Athletic League, the NWOAL. And just recently this week, Cardinal Stritch took down Swanton on the road at Swanton. So it's some stiff competition one way or another in the postseason.
Well, the postseason, as everybody knows who's watching this, the further you go, the harder it gets. Coaches understand what they're doing, at this time of year. The scouting, everything becomes, and you got to have a little luck, so it's not going to be just like the regular season games. You're playing with a little more stress because it's one and done. But that's what makes this part of the time of the year so great, because it is one and done. We've seen upsets happen throughout history of basketball. So I don't expect anything different this year, but I do like Emmanuel. I think talent-wise, they are a very talented team. If they keep it together, they can beat anybody. Yeah,
they are 18-3 in Division III. They're ranked 5th in the state. So the teams ahead of them, Cleveland Heights Lutheran East, Minford, Ottawa Glandorf, Castdown Miami East, and then Emmanuel Christian in the 5 slot. So they will have a target on their back, but there's a reason they have the target on their back, because they have been successful all year long. All right, let's go to the Northern Buckeye Conference. Rossford in our area, undefeated, still looking good, still looking strong. They have had some hiccups. They're 17-4 overall at last check of the standings. Undefeated, 13-0 in conference play. They are at Genoa with an outright title on the line. Genoa has held serve against everyone else in the conference besides Rossford. So if Rossford can take down Genoa at Genoa Friday night, a game that you can see live on the BCSN Now app, they would go 14-0 and clinch an outright title.
I think that's what's going to happen.
Okay.
I just think Rossford, they're just too much in that league, and I'm looking forward actually to seeing what they're going to do in the tournament, because we could potentially see a clash between them and Central, correct?
Yes, in the district finals.
Yeah, so they just got to stay focused, take care of business at Genoa, which I think they will do, but that sectional and district is going to be interesting.
Yeah, Derek Vorst, he's on our top 30 list on the boys' side, and they've had a lot of different contributors for Coach Brian Vorst and the Rossford Bulldogs. It'd be great to see them punctuate an NBC title and then have some momentum going into the postseason, because they, in Division II, we've talked about it numerous times, whether it's you or Rhett here in this seat, talking about the Division II gauntlet that is within the Northwest Ohio area. We have Sandusky, Central Catholic, and Defiance all in the top 10 rankings in the state, let alone this area. So if you get out of Division II in that district and possibly region, you will have earned it, because there are some really top-flight teams that have played Division I teams and have beaten plenty of Division I teams, being a Division II school.
Let me touch on something real quick. When people make the argument Division I, Division II, do we forget that LeBron James actually played in Division II in Ohio? I mean, it's not easy. So for all you guys, and it's not based on talent for some of you people who are watching. It's just based on school size. So the talent is there. And like you said, a lot of these teams, they play Division I schools and do quite well.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I mean, there's
I had to touch on that.
Yeah, no, you're right. Derek Vorst, Division II school at Rossford, going to Indiana State. There's plenty of talented players on the boys and girls side from non-Division I schools who are getting college scholarships. So absolutely, good point. Okay, let's switch over to the girls side, Dion. We'll start again in the NLL. Anthony Wayne won the title. They had just one lost to Springfield earlier in the year, but they have run the table within the Northern Lakes League since that loss, and they have won 2 titles in a row. Elise Bender, the sophomore, named the NLL Player of the Year. They had a number of players in the first, second, and third teams. That list just came out earlier this week. But Anthony Wayne continues to be a team to be reckoned with. They are not ranked within the Division I state rankings. Start is. We'll get to the Lady Spartans here in just a second. But Anthony Wayne reached all the way to the state semifinals last year, Dion, and they are primed to be in position to do so again.
And again and again. I mean, they have a very young team,
yeah.
At least their leaders are. But I think that's how you want it as a coach. You don't want the target on your back, even though we kind of know around here. Once again, I always talk about this. They're very long. They defend and rebound very well. And if you can do those 2 things, you always have an opportunity to win.
Yeah, Anthony Wayne, we've talked about it numerous times, but the playoffs are now here in the postseason. Anthony Wayne, a 1 seed. They would take on Fremont Ross in the district finals if the seeds hold. And then we have Start in Springfield if the seeds hold in the district finals, and another portion of the Division I bracket.
I'm going to tell you something. Fremont Ross, I like that team. I really do. And we just saw Destiny Robinson. She got District Player of the Year, in the division. So they have good guards. They got some interior play. That Final Four might be the best Final Four. Start in Springfield. I'm telling you, that's huge.
And Anthony Wayne played Start in the regionals last year for the right to go to the state tournament. So if they continue to win, they are going to meet again with that opportunity to advance and continue what would be a second historic season.
Start is a problem because they got 3 guards. They're averaging 51 points a game, just those 3.
Yeah.
And I mean, geez, like if you really put those numbers in perspective, that's amazing. How many teams score 51 points, period?
Yes.
You got 3 guards that can do it. Just
Kamar Sylvester, Leonard Garrison, and Sinai Douglas.
She's only a junior. It seems like she's been playing forever. Because she's been playing at a high level.
There are certain players who are talented enough to be on varsity as a freshman.
Right.
And by the time they get to their junior or senior, definitely their senior year, it's as if they have been there for 5 or 6 or 7 years, 100%. Okay, let's go from the NLL to the Three Rivers Athletic Conference on the girls' side. Central Catholic clinched the title last week. We talked about that on the podcast last week. State ranking talk with Central Catholic. They're 20-2. They are third in the state rankings behind Kettering Alter out of the Dayton area, and then Proctorville Fairland 22-0 in the 2 spot there, and then Central Catholic with a 20-2 record. They did get some 2 first place votes. So Central Catholic will definitely be a team to be reckoned with in the Division II postseason. If the seeds hold, they would face Rogers. Rogers is not the Zaya Cook Rogers-led teams of yesteryear, in recent years, I guess I should say. Central Catholic prohibited favorite within their district, and then beyond that, they could get some competition from the Liberty Bentons, possibly the Bryans of the world. And it is worth noting, I looked back at the brackets last year. Central Catholic played Napoleon Napoleon removed from their state championship team, still had some pieces from that team back, but not nearly as talented as Central Catholic, and yet it was a close game, 47-42, Central Catholic, the victors over Napoleon. But that gets back to your point. Upsets can happen at any point in the tournament.
But the thing I like about Central Catholic, and if you watch the top women's team, South Carolina, right? We know that. Look how they're built. They're built from the inside out.
Yeah.
And that's an old school formula. When you got Vaughn down there, she commands double teams, triple teams. She makes it easier for the Cornaya Clays, the Dames, everybody else that can shoot. So when that's the way you can build a team. Because if you get her in the post one-on-one, it's over.
Yes.
So teams have to double her. They have to triple her. And what she does is she's so good at kicking it out and finding shooters. That's what makes them effective. I like how their team is built. I think they have a chance to really go far.
Yeah, a number of players from Central's team, from Fremont Ross's team, Anthony Wayne, Start Springfield, all represented on our top 30 first-team All-BCSN watch list. And again, we'll narrow it from 30 down to 10 and 5 in the coming weeks. All right, in the City League, we saw Start beat Rogers for a third time. So similar to what we were talking about on the boys' side with Start and Scott matching up for a third time. We could have a clean sweep from both the boys and girls side. I tell you what, with those teams, Matt Wortham on the boys' side and then Dane Franklin, Start has been rejuvenated or continued their success within the City League over the past 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years.
See, I'm old school. I remember when Start was a baseball school.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't know nothing about that. Watch and Google it. They're really good. But you're right. I think that what they're doing on both sides is amazing. The community is really West Toledo. You guys have a treasure there. Keep supporting those guys. I really like what they're doing. But I think Start on the girls in any way, too much talent.
Yeah,
they're loaded.
Yeah, I think with them, we talked about Anthony Wayne and Fremont Ross, Start versus Springfield. It's almost a guarantee with those teams to advance out of there. But with Start on the boys' side, coming off a potential City League championship, they are going to have a little bit of a tougher test in my estimation. They're going to play Southview in their first game of the postseason, but then they could match up against their friendly rivals down Tremainsville Road in Whitmer. Whitmer is the 1 seed in that district. So in the district semifinals, in all likelihood, we would see Start taking on Whitmer.
And that game is going to be crazy. We all know the battle at Tremainsville. It's probably going to end up, I don't know where it's going to be. We don't know yet, but I see that. I see that game happening, and I see it being a good game. And I see Start matching up really well with Whitmer. Yeah,
that would be a neutral site game. All tournament games are on neutral sites. All right, let's finish up the girls' side, Dion, with the TAAC. That's Toledo Christian, and it's pretty much Toledo Christian and everybody else.
Exactly. I mean, we talk about them, week in and week out. We know they have Kendall, Madison Royal Davis. Those two have been an outstanding tandem. I see them going pretty far in the tournament, but that's really been the team in the TAAC that's done really well. Yeah,
it's on my agenda once we get deeper into the postseason. As of right now, Toledo Christian ranked 9th in the state in Division 4 on the girls' side, 17-4 overall, unbeaten in the Toledo Area Athletic Conference play. And those 4 losses have been to top flight tier teams, whether it's a smaller school or a higher level division school, Anthony Wayne, the Dublin Kaufmans, all teams that are not only just bigger schools, but are superior teams within their own division, like the Anthony Waynes.
Very good, and you do that just to prep for the tournament, and that's an old formula. When you have a good team and you're probably the top team, in their league, you got to go out and really battle test your team to kind of see what they're made of, and that's what they've done. So I expect them, like I said, to go pretty far in the tournament.
Yep, they would be the 1 seed prohibitive favorites in their first round matchup against Holgate or Emmanuel Christian. If they win that game, they would face Gibsonburg or Maumee Valley Country Day. Likely win that game, they get to the district championship game, where if the seeds hold, they would take on Woodmore out of the Northern Buckeye Conference. They're the co-champions of the Northern Buckeye Conference along with Fostoria. So Woodmore is the 2 seed. So they're nothing to sniff at. I mean, they are a challenging team, and if you have an off night, if the shots aren't dropping, anything can happen. But yes, Toledo Christian and Coach Tim Winsink would be the favorites.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with everything you said. I mean, I think Whitmore, they've had a quietly good season out there. But I like this TC team just because of their scheduling and the way they're playing right now. They're playing at a high level.
All right, on Friday, we'll get to our question of the week momentarily. I'll give you the lineup of Friday games. St. John's taking on St. Francis. Lima Senior taking on Findlay. We got Cardinal Stritch at Ottawa Hills. Bowling Green, Anthony Wayne. Rossford up against Genoa. Southview taking on Perrysburg. Huron on Willard. Vermilion at Perkins. And hockey side, we got Findlay taking on Bowling Green in the regional quarterfinals at Tam O'Shanter.
How come you never asked me about hockey?
What do you want to talk about with hockey?
Keep going.
We have that. We have all kinds of hockey action. We got Rhett Boyd on Game Day Nation talking about what wicked wristers, slap shots. So, yes, Dion is all basketball all the time. He's locked in. But, yes, we'd like to spread the love on the ice as well. Speaking of, check out Ice Check Tuesday nights at 10 o'clock with Joel, Matt, and Matt. All right, let's get to our final segment here.
It's time for the BCSN Nation podcast question of the week. Send us your question on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook using the @BCSN Sports and #BCSN Podcast.
All right, is our game of the week this Friday, February 17th. St. John's at St. Francis. That's a 7 o'clock varsity only, so if you are attending the game, be aware of that. Not a 7:30 after a freshman in JV. It's varsity only at St. Francis, 7 o'clock tip-off there inside the pit. And here is the question, Dion. St. John's beat St. Francis the first time around 52-45, a 7-point game. What would a St. Francis win mean for the Knights?
Okay, we all know what's going to happen. It's going to be night for a day. They're going to have all the little 8th graders and 7th graders visiting the game. But that's a rivalry that's just built steep in tradition.
Yep.
I mean, you know, that rivalry's been around forever. And St. Francis is having a very good year. You know, we talked about it earlier in the season. You know, first people looked at their schedule, it was a little light, but then they start beating some very good teams.
Yep.
St. John's, they're playing well too. And if you look at St. John's, their sectional draw, they have a chance to kind of move on. But if St. Francis could pull this off, that would be huge for Coach Kaczmarek and that program.
Yeah, they're going to need a balanced attack and kind of have a lot of multiple contributors. You could say that on both the Titans
Coach Schoen's
and the
going to
Knights.
be ready, though.
Yeah, I think that if you look at the records right now, St. John's 8-5 in conference play, St. Francis 5-8 in conference play. They're right next to each other within the TRAC standings. It's kind of been Central Catholic and Whitmer, the two teams vying for the top spot. Then you got a mixture of Findlay, Lima Senior, St. John's, then a little bit of a drop-off to St. Francis, Fremont Ross, and Clay. But this is going to be a battle, as we mentioned, the first time around where this game was in the earlier part of the regular season, a 7-point game.
Yeah, and both teams, as I say, are battle-tested. And guys, when you look at the losses just overall, both these teams have played Central very tough, Whitmer very tough. So they've played the top-tier teams really tough. This is a huge game. It's going to be rocking. It's going to be crowded in there. But this would be huge if St. Francis can pull this off. Yeah,
if they would do that, they would then turn their sights on their first sectional final game when they would take on the winner of Springfield and Mansfield Madison Comprehensive. So we talked about Findlay versus Anthony Wayne in the first round, Dion, where one of those teams is advancing and one of them having a really, really, really good year is going to be bounced in the first round. Springfield, if they can hold serve against a 10-12 seed matchup there, if Springfield can win that game, they would go on to face St. Francis. And yes, St. Francis doesn't have the greatest record, but they've made so many vast improvements, and you really want to see one of those. That's a game where you don't want either team to lose.
And the problem, like I said, I think when you look at Springfield, they've kind of had a little bit of a few setbacks at the end of the year. Mm-hmm. So they're not playing really well. This may be a chance for St. Francis to maybe catch them. But the thing about Springfield, they can beat anybody. Yeah. So that depending on what team shows up, that's going to be a good game if they can get out of that first round.
And then you talked about the draw for St. John's in the bracket play beyond regular season. They would face Waite in the first round. That should be a favorite for the Titans to take down the Indians. If St. John's wins that, they would face the 2-seed Tiffin Columbian. So I think people would have mixed opinions on Tiffin Columbian. They are definitely deserving of that 2-seed, but I think that there would be some who would say the TRAC plays a different style of basketball, or maybe up and down through the duration of an entire season. You might be more battle-tested, but that would be a pretty juicy matchup to see the victor in that outcome with Tiffin Columbian against St. John's.
I like St. John's, and there's another team I thought got a good draw. I thought Lima Senior got a pretty good draw too. You know, that they may be able to advance a little bit as well, but I like St. John's maybe advancing to that Final Four.
Okay, all right. We'll see how that plays out. Lima Senior taking on Fremont Ross. You'd think Lima would get a win there. Then they would face potentially Northview or Bowling Green. Of course, last year Lima Senior played Northview in the tournament, and Lima Senior took down Northview in a excellent game. A little bit of a controversial call along the sideline on one of the made jump shots at the end, but Lima Senior did pull out the victory.
Foot was on the line.
Well, I don't know if it was on the line. It might have been on, it might have been off. I don't know. That was for the referees to decide, with or without the help of BCSN cameras that were at that game. So we got a lot to look forward to. Dion is back in the saddle. He'll be on the far right of the desk, and he'll be alongside Rhett Boyd and Joel Sebastianelli, hosting on Game Day Nation Friday nights at 7 o'clock all the way till 10. Live look-ins throughout the night and special feature stories, student section of the week. I'm getting ready actually to go from this taping of the podcast over to Cardinal Stritch. They are the student section of the week, so they'll see that story and interviews with some of their student section leaders during Friday night's programming from 7 to 10. And then at 10 o'clock from 10 to 10:30, Game Day Nation Overtime, all the highlights, post-game interviews, our play-by-play and color analyst perspective in our two-person reports after those games. So a lot to look forward to as we begin the playoff push on the girls' side and we wrap up the regular season on the boys' side. For Dion, I am Justin. Thank you, as always, for listening and or watching to the BCSN Nations podcast, powered by Marco's Pizza, a great partner alongside Buckeye Broadband and BCSN and BCAN. Marco's Pizza. Go get yourself anything and everything at that fine restaurant. Have a great week.